I caught Lily with our professor. My photos will ruin them both. The air smelled of rain that evening, a damp chill clinging to my jacket as I walked across the university campus. My sneakers crunched on a gravel path, the bouquet of roses in my hand trembling slightly with each step. I'd spent the last hour picking them out, imagining the way Lily's face would light up when I surprised her. She'd been stressed about her literature course lately, staying late for extra lessons with her professor. I figured a small gesture might remind her how much I cared. We'd been together for a year and a half, and despite the occasional strain, her late nights, my long shifts at the coffee shop, things felt solid. Or so I thought. Lily had a way of making everything feel alive. Her laugh could cut through the dullest moments, and her playful teasing kept me on my toes. Sure, she'd flirt with her friends sometimes, tossing out coy remarks or batting her eyes in an exaggerated way that made everyone laugh. Just jokes, she'd say, nudging me with a grin. I believed her. I always did. Maybe that was my first mistake. The humanities building loomed ahead, its brick facade glowing faintly under the streetlights. Her class was supposed to end at 7, but it was nearly 8 now. Extra lessons, she'd texted earlier. Her words casual. I didn't think much of it. Professor Callahan was known for being thorough, and Lily was determined to ace her finals. I pictured her hunched over a desk, scribbling notes, her brow furrowed in that adorable way it did when she was focused. I approached the side of the building, where the lecture hall windows spilled soft light onto the grass. My plan was simple. Wait outside, surprise her with the flowers, and maybe steal a kiss before we grabbed dinner. The thought made me smile, despite the drizzle starting to speckle my shoulders. But as I neared the window, something stopped me. A sound, low, rhythmic, unmistakable. My stomach, twisted before my brain, could catch up. I froze. The roses suddenly heavy in my hand. The sound came again, soft moans, muffled but clear enough to slice through the quiet. My heart thudded, a sickening rhythm of its own. I edged closer to the window, the glass fogged slightly from the warmth inside. There was a gap in the blinds, just wide enough to see through. I shouldn't have looked. I wish I hadn't. Lily was there, her silhouette unmistakable. Her dark hair spilled over her shoulders, her head tilted back, and there, pressed against her, was Professor Callahan. Her hands were on Lily's waist, their bodies too close, too intimate. The world tilted. My breath caught, sharp and painful like I'd been punched. The flowers slipped from my fingers, landing in the wet grass with a soft thud. I couldn't move, couldn't think. My eyes burned, but I couldn't look away. It was like watching a stranger wearing Lily's face. Someone I didn't know at all. The woman I'd shared a bed with, laughed with, planned a future with. She was unraveling everything in that moment. The moans grew louder, and each one felt like a blade twisting deeper. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone. I don't know why I did it. Instinct, maybe, or some desperate need to prove this was real. I angled the camera through the gap, snapping photos, each click a small rebellion against the pain. 2, 3 for shots. Evidence. Proof that my world was crumbling. I backed away, my legs unsteady, the rain now soaking through my jacket. The roses lay forgotten, their petals bruised in the dirt. My chest ached, a hollow kind of hurt that made it hard to breathe. I wanted to scream, to barge in and demand answers. But I didn't. I just stood there, the images on my phone burning into my mind. Lily had lied. Not just tonight, but maybe all along. Those jokes with her friends, the late nights, the way she dodged questions about her day sometimes. It all clicked into place, a puzzle I'd been too blind to solve. I felt like a fool. Worse, I felt betrayed. As I walked away, the campus blurring to the sting in my eyes, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, raw and jagged, but beneath it, something colder took root. I didn't know what I'd do yet, but those photos in my pocket felt like a weapon, a way to take back what she'd stolen from me. Trust, love, dignity, it was all gone. But I'd make her feel it, too. Somehow, I'd make her pay. The rain fell harder, and I let it drench me. I didn't care. The world had changed in an instant, and so had I. Whatever came next, I'd face it with those photos in my hand and a plan forming in the dark corners of my mind. The rain followed me home, a relentless drumbeat against my hood. Each step felt heavier, like the ground itself was pulling me down. My apartment, our apartment, was only a few blocks from campus, but the walk stretched into eternity. My phone burned in my pocket. Those photos, a ticking bomb I couldn't ignore. I didn't know what to do with them yet, but they were all I had. Proof of her lie, proof of my pain. Inside, the apartment was too quiet. Lily's books were scattered on the coffee table, her sweater draped over the couch like she'd just stepped out. The sight of it made my stomach churn. I dropped my soaked jacket on the floor and sank onto the couch, my hands trembling as I pulled out my phone. The screen lit up, and there they were. For grainy images, each one a punch to the gut. Lily's face, her eyes closed in a way I'd once thought was just for me. Professor Callahan's hands, possessive and sure. I swiped through them, each photo sharpening the ache in my chest. I don't know how long I sat there, staring. The clock on the wall ticked past 9, then 10. Lily hadn't texted, hadn't called. She was probably still with her, laughing, touching, while I drowned in the wreckage of us. I wondered if she'd even come home tonight. Part of me hoped she wouldn't. I didn't know if I could look at her without screaming. The roses were still out there, rotting in the rain. I should have thrown them at the window, let them shatter the moment like she'd shattered me. But I didn't. Instead, I'd taken those photos, and now they were all I could think about. What could I do with them? Post them somewhere, expose her? Send them to university? Get Callahan fired? The ideas swirled, each one darker than the last. Revenge felt like the only thing keeping me upright. I opened my laptop, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The photos were still on my phone, but I transferred them to a hidden folder, labeling it Evidence. It felt official, like I was building a case. Maybe I was. I searched Callahan's name online, curious about the woman who'd turned my life upside down. Her university profile popped up, Dr. Eleanor Callahan, Ph.D. in literature, tenured mid-40s, with a list of publications longer than my arm. She looked serious in her photo, her glasses perched low on her nose, but there was a sharpness in her eyes that made me uneasy. She was powerful, untouchable, or so she thought. I kept digging, scrolling through faculty pages, student forums, anything that might give me leverage. There wasn't much. Callahan was well-liked, respected even. But I found a thread on a campus Reddit, buried deep, where a student hinted at extra attention from her during office hours. It was vague, probably nothing, but it planted a seed. What if Lily wasn't the first? What if this was a pattern? The thought made my blood boil, but it also gave me focus. If I could prove Callahan was abusing her position, I could hit them both where it hurt. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my spiral. A text from Lily, staying late to study. Don't wait up. No, I love you. No heart emoji like usual. Just cold, curt words. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I wanted to type something cutting, something that would make her squirm, but I stopped myself. She didn't know I knew. That was my advantage. I leaned back, closing my eyes. The apartment smelled like her, vanilla lotion and coffee grounds. It used to comfort me, but now it felt like a trap. I couldn't stay here, surrounded by her things, her lies. I grabbed my keys and headed out, not sure where I was going. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflective. I ended up at a 24-hour diner a few blocks away, the kind of place where the coffee was bitter and the booze were sticky. I slid into a corner seat, ordered a black coffee, and let my thoughts run wild. The photos were my weapon, but I had to be smart. Posting them online would be too easy, too messy. It could backfire, make me the villain. No, this had to be precise, calculated. I thought about confronting Lily, shoving the photos in her face, and watching her scramble for excuses. But that wouldn't be enough. I wanted her to feel the same betrayal, the same helplessness I felt standing outside that window. And Callahan, she needed to lose something, too. Her reputation, her job, her smug sense of control. I sipped the coffee, grimacing at the taste. A plan was forming, rough and unpolished. I could start small, spread rumors about Callahan, nothing too direct, plant doubts in the right ears, classmates, faculty, maybe even the dean's office. The photos could come later, anonymous, undeniable. Lily would hate the spotlight, the whispers. She'd always cared too much about what people thought. And Callahan? A scandal like this could ruin her. But there was a part of me, a small, stupid part, that still loved her, that wanted to believe this was a mistake, that she'd come home and explain it all away. I hated that part of me. It made me feel weak, like I was betraying myself by even considering forgiveness. I pushed it down, focusing on the anger instead. Anger was fuel. Anger would keep me going. The diner's neon sign buzzed above me, casting red light across the table. I pulled out my phone again, opening the photos. They were blurry, but clear enough. Lily's face, Callahan's hands. I zoomed in, studying the details, memorizing them. This was my reality now, and I'd use it to rebuild what she'd broken. One way or another, they'd both regret this. I paid for the coffee and stepped back into the night. The air was colder now, sharper. I felt different, too, like something inside me had hardened. I didn't know exactly what I'd do next, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the one who'd be left broken in the end. The diner's coffee left a bitter aftertaste, but I ordered another cup anyway. It was past midnight now, the neon glow of the sign outside flickering like my resolve. My phone sat on the table, screen dark, but those photos were still there, lurking in a hidden folder labeled Evidence. Every time I thought about them, my chest tightened, a mix of rage and something softer, something I didn't want to name. I hadn't slept since that night outside the lecture hall, and the exhaustion would start to creep into my bones, making everything feel surreal, like I was living someone else's nightmare. I kept replaying Lily's text. Staying late to study. Don't wait up. No warmth. No trace of the girl who used to slip her hand into mine during late-night walks across campus. I wanted to believe it was just one night, one mistake, but the pieces didn't fit. The way she'd been distant lately, always busy with her literature class, the way she laughed off my questions about her day, it all pointed to something deeper, something that had been growing right under my nose. I was an idiot for not seeing it sooner. The diner was nearly empty, just a trucker at the counter and a waitress wiping down tables. I pulled out my laptop again, the glow of the screen harsh in the dim light. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I needed to do something, anything, to keep from drowning in my own head. I opened the campus Reddit thread I'd found earlier, the one hinting at Callahan's extra attention. The post was anonymous, of course, but the comments were vague, some defending her, others tossing out cryptic remarks about her office hours. One user wrote, "She's brilliant, but you don't want to get on her bad side." Another said, "Heard she picks favorites. Watch out if you're not one." Nothing concrete, but enough to make me wonder. I typed Callahan's name into the university's faculty directory again, digging deeper this time. Her office hours were listed. Tuesdays and Thursdays, for 6 p.m. Lily's study sessions, always seemed to line up with those. I checked her publication list, skimming titles about feminist theory and Victorian poetry. It was impressive, sure, but it didn't tell me who she was. Not really. I needed something personal, something that would give me an edge. A quick search on social media turned up nothing. She was either too smart or too old school to have public profiles. But then I found an old article from the campus newspaper, a feature on her teaching style. "Dr. Callahan's classes are intense but transformative," it read. "She has a knack for connecting with students on a personal level." Personal. Yeah, I bet. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to type something, maybe an anonymous post of my own, a subtle jab to stir the pot. Anyone else think Callahan's a bit too close with her students? I could write it, hit enter, and let the rumors spread like wildfire, but I stopped myself. Too risky, too soon. If I was going to do this, I needed to be careful. The photos were my trump card, but I couldn't play them yet. Not until I knew exactly what I was dealing with. I closed the laptop and leaned back, rubbing my eyes. The diner smelled of grease and stale coffee, but it was better than the vanilla-scented prison of our apartment. I couldn't go back there, not yet. Not while Lily's things were everywhere, mocking me. I wonder if she was still with Callahan, if they were at her office or somewhere else, some secret place they carved out for themselves. The thought made my stomach lurch, and I pushed it away, focusing on the plan instead. Step 1, gather more information. I needed to know how long this had been going on, how deep it went. Was Lily just a fling for Callahan, or was there more to it? I remembered a friend of Lily's, Sarah, who was in the same literature class. Sarah was chatty, always spilling gossip over coffee. If anyone knew something, it'd be her. I made a mental note to track her down tomorrow, maybe play dumb and ask about Lily's study group. The idea of fishing for dirt on my own girlfriend made me feel sick, but I pushed through it. She'd lost the right to my loyalty the moment she let Callahan touch her. Step 2, watch Callahan. If she had a pattern, I'd find it. I could hang around the humanities building, blend in with the other students. Maybe I'd catch them again, get more evidence. The thought of seeing them together made my skin crawl, but I needed to be sure. The photos were damning, but they weren't enough to ruin her. Not yet. The waitress came by, refilling my coffee without asking. "You look like you're carrying the world," she said, her voice soft but tired. I forced a smile, muttering something about finals. She nodded and walked away, leaving me with my thoughts. The world. Yeah, that about summed it up. My world had been Lily. Her laugh, her warmth, the way she'd hum off-key while making breakfast. Now it was just me, a folder of photos, and a growing need to make them both pay. I thought about confronting Lily, imagining the look on her face when I showed her photos. Would she cry? Lie? Beg for forgiveness? Part of me wanted to see her break, to watch her realize what she'd done. But another part, the part that still remembered her head on my chest, her voice whispering my name, wanted to pretend this never happened. I hated that part. It was weak, pathetic. I wasn't going to be that guy, the one who lets love blind him to the truth. The diner's clock read 1:30 a.m. I paid my bill and stepped outside, the air sharp and cold. The campus was a ghost town now, the streetlights casting long, lonely shadows. I walked toward the humanities building, not sure why. My feet just carried me there, like some part of me needed to see it again, to make it real. The lecture hall windows were dark now, no light, no movement. I stood where I'd stood that night, the spot where I dropped the roses. The grass was still matted, the petals gone, washed away by the rain. I pulled out my phone, opened the photos one last time. They hadn't changed, but somehow they felt heavier now, like they carried the weight of every choice I'd make next. I locked the screen and shoved it back in my pocket. Tomorrow I'd start digging. I'd talk to Sarah, watch Callahan, build my case. Lily thought she could play me, but she was wrong. I wasn't just the guy through the blinds. I was the guy who'd make her regret it. I hadn't slept. Not really. Just a few restless hours on the couch, haunted by dreams of Lily's laugh twisting into something cruel. The apartment was still a minefield of her things. Her favorite mug on the counter, her scarf tangled in a chair. I avoided looking at them as I grabbed a stale bagel and headed out. The campus was waking up. Students shuffling to early classes, their chatter a dull hum against the static in my head. I had one goal today. Find Sarah. Sarah was Lily's shadow in the literature department, always tagging along to coffee runs or study groups. She had a knack for gossip, the kind of person who knew everyone's secrets but never seemed to have any of her own. If anyone had noticed Lily acting strange, it'd be her. I texted her last night casual, asking if she wanted to grab coffee to catch up. She'd agreed. Her reply full of exclamation points, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. The coffee shop near the humanities building was packed, the air thick with the smell of espresso and burnt toast. I spotted Sarah at a corner table, her blonde hair pulled into a messy bun, her phone glued to her hand. She waved me over, her smile too bright for 8 a.m. "Hey, stranger, where have you been hiding?" she chirped, pushing a chair out with her foot. I forced a grin, sliding into the seat. "Just busy. Work, classes, you know." My voice sounded hollow, but she didn't seem to notice. I ordered black coffee, the same bitter sludge I'd had at the diner, and let her ramble about her latest drama, a fight with her roommate, some guy ghosting her. I nodded along, waiting for an opening, my fingers tapping restlessly against the cup. "So, how's Lily doing?" I asked, keeping my tone light, like it was just a passing thought. "She's been slammed with that literature class, right?" Sarah's smile faltered, just for a second, but it was enough to make my pulse spike. "Oh, yeah, she's been, super intense about it," she said, stirring her latte, always in Callahan's office, working on her thesis or whatever. I swear she's obsessed with that class. I leaned forward, my grip tightening on the cup. "Obsessed, huh? How much time is she spending with Callahan?" She shrugged, but her eyes flicked away, like she was choosing her words carefully. "I mean a lot. Office hours, extra sessions. Callahan's really hands-on with her favorites, you know? She'll spend hours with certain students, going over drafts, talking theory. It's intense." She paused, sipping her drink. "Lily's definitely one of her favorites." The word favorites hit like a punch. I thought of that Reddit thread, the hints about Callahan's extra attention. My stomach churned, but I kept my face neutral. "Sounds like Callahan's pretty invested in her," I said. "Fishing? Ever seem, I don't know, weirdly close?" Sarah's laugh was sharp, almost nervous. "Weirdly close? Nah, it's just how she is. Charismatic, you know? She makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. Lily eats it up. Honestly, I think she's got a bit of crush." She froze, like she'd said too much, then backtracked. "I mean, not like a real crush. Just, admiring her brain and stuff." A crush. The word echoed, slicing through me. I wanted to grab Sarah's shoulders, demand she explain, but I didn't. Instead, I nodded, taking a slow sip of coffee to hide the shake in my hands. "Yeah, Callahan's got that vibe," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. "Ever hear anything else about her? Like rumors?" Sarah hesitated, her fingers twisting a napkin. "Not really. I mean, people talk. Some say she's tough if you cross her, like she'll tank your grade. And there's this one girl, a senior last year, who said Callahan got too personal, asking about her life and stuff. But it's just talk. You know how students are." I didn't know, but I nodded anyway, filing it away. A senior. Too personal. Another crack in Callahan's perfect facade. I changed the subject, letting Sarah ramble about her plans for spring break, but my mind was elsewhere. Lily wasn't just cheating. She was caught up in something bigger, something that made her Callahan's favorite. The thought made my skin crawl, but it also gave me focus. If Callahan had a history, I'd find it. After coffee, I headed to the humanities building. I didn't have a class there, but I needed to see it, to feel the weight of that place where everything fell apart. The hallways were busy, students spilling out of lecture halls, their voices a chaotic buzz. I lingered near Callahan's office. The door closed, a faint light seeping under it. I imagined Lily inside, her head bent close to Callahan's, their voices low and intimate. The image made my fists clench, but I forced myself to walk away. Outside, the air was crisp, the campus alive with the rhythm of midterms. I sat on a bench near the quad, pulling out my phone. The photos were still there, a silent accusation. I couldn't confront Lily yet. I didn't have enough. But Sarah's words, that hint of a crush, had lit a fire. I opened my laptop, connecting to campus Wi-Fi, and started typing an anonymous post for the Reddit thread. Anyone else notice Callahan gets really close with certain students? Maybe too close? I didn't mention Lily or the photos, just a vague nudge to see who'd bite. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the submit button. This was a line I couldn't uncross. But then I thought of Lily's text, her cold, "Don't wait up," and I hit send. The post was live now, a small spark in the digital void. I didn't know if it'd catch, but it felt like a step, a way to rattle Callahan's cage without showing my hand. I closed my laptop and leaned back, the bench cold against my spine. The campus stretched out before me, all brick buildings and leafless trees, but it felt different now, like a battlefield. Lily thought she could play me, and Callahan thought she was untouchable. They were both wrong. I stood, my resolve hardening. I'd talk to more people. Classmates, maybe that senior Sarah mentioned. I'd watch Callahan's office, track her patterns. The photos were my ace, but I'd build a case first, something undeniable. Lily's betrayal had broken me, but I wasn't going to stay broken. I'd make them both face the consequences, one crack at a time. The campus felt different in the late afternoon, the light slanting low and golden, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch toward me. I'd skip my morning classes, unable to focus on anything but the plan. My laptop was open on my desk, the Reddit thread pulled up, my post from yesterday. Anyone else notice Callahan gets really close with certain students? Had gotten traction. Not a lot, but enough. A few comments echoed the sentiment. One user claiming Callahan had favorites every semester. Another hinting at late-night office hours that felt off. Nothing solid, but it was a start. Each reply fueled a fire in my chest, a mix of validation and rage. I wasn't alone in seeing her for what she was. I'd spent the morning digging deeper, searching for the senior Sarah mentioned, the one who called Callahan too personal. The campus directory was useless without a name, but I cross-referenced last year's literature majors on the department's website. A name stood out. Emily Harper, graduated last spring, now working at a bookstore downtown. Her LinkedIn mentioned a thesis under Callahan's supervision. It wasn't much, but it was a lead. I decided to find her, see if she'd talk. If Callahan had a pattern, Emily might know something. The bookstore was a 20-minute bus ride from campus, tucked between a vape shop and a deli. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped inside, the air heavy with the smell of old paper and dust. Shelves towered around me, packed with used books, their spines cracked and faded. A girl with short dark hair stood behind the counter, sorting receipts. I recognized her from a photo on the department's website. Emily. She looked tired, her eyes shadowed, but there was a sharpness to her, like she was always on guard. "Hey," I said, approaching the counter, my voice casual despite the knot in my stomach. "You're Emily Harper, right?" "I'm from a university, literature department." I had a question about the professor. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she nodded. "Yeah, that's me. What's up?" Her tone was cautious, like she'd been burned before. I hesitated, choosing my words. "It's about Dr. Callahan. I heard you worked with her on your thesis. I'm, thinking of taking her class, but I've heard mixed things. Just wanted your take." Emily's face didn't change, but her hand stilled on the receipts. "Callahan," she said, like the name carried weight. "She's brilliant. Tough but brilliant. What kind of mixed things did you hear?" I shrugged, leaning against the counter. Tried to seem nonchalant. "Just rumors. Like, she gets really close with some students. Maybe too close? I don't know. Just try to figure out if she's fair." She let out a short laugh, but it wasn't amused. "Fair. Yeah, sure. She's fair if you're on her good side. If you're not, good luck." She paused, glancing around the empty store, then lowered her voice. "Look, she's intense. She'll make you feel like you're special, like your ideas matter. But it's a game. She picks people she thinks she can influence. It's not just teaching. It's personal." My heart pounded, but I kept my face neutral. "Personal how?" Emily sighed, running a hand through her hair. She'd asked about my life, my goals, stuff that felt like mentoring at first. But then it got weird. Texts late at night, invites to discuss my thesis over coffee, comments about my appearance. I shut it down, told her I wasn't comfortable. After that, she got cold. My thesis barely passed. I'm not saying she did anything outright wrong, but be careful. I nodded, my mind racing. This was it, a pattern. Callahan wasn't just cheating with Lily. She was manipulating students, using her power to pull them in. "Thanks," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "That's helpful." "Don't quote me," she added quickly, her eyes sharp. "I don't need trouble." "No worries," I said, backing toward the door. "Just curious." The bus ride back was a blur. Emily's words looped in my head. each one a new piece of the puzzle. Callahan wasn't just a predator in my story. She was a repeat offender, preying on students like Lily, like Emily, maybe others. The thought made my blood boil, but it also clarified things. This wasn't just about Lily's betrayal anymore. It was about stopping Callahan. Back on campus, I headed to the humanities building, my steps purposeful. It was Thursday, Callahan's office hours. I didn't plan to confront her, not yet, but I needed to see her, to watch her. The hallway was quiet, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly. Her office door was ajar, voices drifting out. I slowed, my heart thudding. It was Lily's voice, soft and familiar, followed by Callahan's low, measured tone. I couldn't make out the words, but the intimacy in their cadence was unmistakable. I ducked into an empty classroom across the hall, leaving the door cracked. Through the narrow gap, I saw them step out. Lily's hair was loose, her cheeks flushed. Callahan was close behind, her hand brushing Lily's back as she laughed at something. My fingers tightened around my phone, the photos burning in my pocket. I wanted to storm out, shove the evidence in their faces. But I didn't. I stayed hidden, watching as they walked down the hall, their shoulders almost touching. When they were gone, I slipped into the hallway, my breath shaky. The photos weren't enough anymore. I needed more, dates, times, proof of Callahan's pattern. I checked the Reddit thread again. A new comment had popped up. Heard Callahan's been cozy with a sophomore this year. Same old story. No names, but it was enough to keep the fire burning. I added another anonymous post. Anyone specifics on Callahan's favorites? Sounds like a problem. I hit send, my hands trembling with adrenaline. Back at the apartment, I avoided Lily's things, locking myself in the bedroom. Her text from earlier sat unanswered. Home late again, sorry. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop, starting a document to track everything. Emily's story, the Reddit comments, the photos. This was my case, my weapon. Lily's betrayal had broken me. But Callahan's game was bigger, uglier. I'd expose them both, piece by piece, until their world cracked like mine had. The air in the apartment was suffocating, thick with the ghost of Lily's perfume. I hadn't seen her in 2 days, not really. She'd come home late, slipping into bed while I pretended to sleep, her presence a blade against my skin. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind a storm of Emily's words, the Reddit thread, those photos. They were all I had, but they were starting to feel like not enough. I needed more, something to break this wide open, to make Lily and Callahan feel the weight of what they'd done. The clock read 3 a.m., but sleep was a stranger. My laptop glowed in the dark, the document I'd started now a sprawling map of the betrayal. Dates, times, Emily's story, anonymous posts. It was a lifeline, a way to keep from drowning. By morning, the Reddit thread had exploded. My second post, anyone with specifics on Callahan's favorites, had sparked a wildfire. Students were piling on, some with vague gripes, others with stories that mirrored Emily's. Late-night meetings, personal questions, a charm that felt too deliberate. One user, Lit Major 22, dropped a bomb. I saw her with a student in her office last week. Door locked, lights dim. Not saying sketchy, but draw your own conclusions. My heart stopped. Last week, that could have been Lily. I typed a reply, my fingers shaking. Which student? Details. No response yet, but the thread was alive, a beast I'd unleashed. I felt a sick thrill, like I was finally hitting back. I couldn't stay in the apartment any longer. Lily's things, her books, her hairbrush, her half-empty coffee mug, were mocking me, each one a reminder of the life we'd built. I grabbed my jacket and headed to campus, the early light gray and heavy with the threat of rain. My plan was simple: stake out Callahan's office again, catch them in the act, maybe get a recording this time. The photos were damning, but a video, a voice, those would be undeniable. I downloaded an app that could record audio discreetly, my phone now a weapon in my pocket. The humanities building was quieter than usual, midterms thinning the crowds. I found a spot in the hallway, a shadowed alcove near the stairwell with a clear view of Callahan's door. My backpack sat at my feet, my phone ready, my heart pounding so loud I was sure someone would hear it. I waited, the minutes crawling by, the fluorescent lights buzzing like a warning. Then I heard her voice, Lily's, bright and teasing, coming from the stairwell. My stomach twisted as she appeared. Callahan beside her, their steps in sync. Lily was laughing, her hand brushing Callahan's arm, the same way she used to touch me. Callahan's smile was sharp, proprietary, like she'd won something. I started the recording, my thumb trembling. Their voices were low, but I caught fragments. "Really helped me see it differently," Lily said, her tone warm, intimate. Callahan murmured something, too soft to hear, and Lily laughed again, softer this time. They stopped at her office door, and Callahan's hand lingered on the handle, her eyes on Lily like she was the only thing in the world. I wanted to scream, to charge at them, but I stayed frozen, the phone capturing every second. The door opened, they stepped inside, and it clicked shut. The lock turned, a small sound that hit like a gunshot. I stopped the recording, my breath ragged. 30 seconds of audio, but it was enough. Lily's voice, Callahan's, the intimacy unmistakable. I played it back, the sound tinny through my earbuds, each word a fresh wound. I saved it to my evidence folder, my hands shaking with a mix of triumph and nausea. This was it, the leverage I needed, but it wasn't enough to just have it. I had to use it. Back at the quad, I sat on a bench, the air cold and damp against my face. The Reddit thread was still open on my phone, new comments rolling in. Lit Major 22 had replied, didn't see the student's face, but was a girl, dark hair, sophomore maybe. My blood ran cold. Lily, it had to be her. I typed another post, bolder this time. Callahan's been locking her office with a student. Anyone know who? This needs to stop. I hit send, my heart racing. The thread was a ticking bomb now, and I was lighting the fuse. I thought about confronting Lily tonight, playing the recording, showing her the photos, watching her face collapse. The idea was intoxicating, but it felt too soon. I needed more names, dates, proof that would bury Callahan, not just hurt Lily. I opened my laptop, adding the recording to my document, noting the time and place. I searched for Lit Major 22 on the university student forums, hoping to find a clue to their identity. Nothing, but I wasn't giving up. I'd track them down, get their story, build a case so tight even Callahan's tenure couldn't protect her. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my spiral. A text from Lily. "Hey, you okay? Haven't seen you much." The words were casual, but they felt like a taunt. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I wanted to type everything, call her out, make her squirm, but I didn't. Instead, I wrote, "Yeah, just busy. Talk later." Cold, distant like her. Let her wonder. The sky darkened, rain starting to speckle the bench. I didn't move. The weight of it all, the photos, the recording, the Reddit thread, was crushing, but it was also power. I wasn't the broken guy who dropped those roses anymore. I was something else, something harder. Lily and Callahan thought they could play their game, but I was rewriting the rules. Tomorrow, I'd find Lit Major 22, dig deeper, maybe even go to the dean with what I had. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about tearing down their lies. The rain soaked through my jacket, but I didn't care. I was on the edge of something, and I wasn't backing down. The rain was back, a steady drizzle that turned the campus into a blur of gray and green. I stood outside the Humanities building, my phone heavy in my pocket, the weight of the photos and recording anchoring me to this moment. It was Friday, the last day of classes before spring break, and the hallways were alive with students rushing to finish midterms. I'd spent the night finalizing my plan, the document on my laptop now a manifesto betrayal, timestamps, screenshots of the Reddit thread, Emily's story, the audio of Lily and Callahan. It was enough. It had to be. Today I'd end this. I'd sent an email to the dean's office last night, anonymous, with a single photo attached, one of the clearer ones, showing Callahan's hand on Lily's waist, their faces unmistakable. I'd included a link to the Reddit thread and a note. Investigate Dr. Callahan's conduct with students. This isn't the first time. I didn't know if they'd act, but the seed was planted. The thread had grown overnight, with Lit Major 22 and others adding fuel. Stories of Callahan's favoritism, locked doors, late-night texts. The campus was buzzing with whispers, and I could feel the tide turning. But it wasn't enough to let the university handle it. I needed Lily to see me, to know what she'd done. I'd texted her this morning. Meet me at the quad, 3 p.m. We need to talk. No reply, but I knew she'd come. She had to. The quad was neutral ground, public enough to keep me from losing it, private enough for the truth to cut deep. I checked my phone, 2:55 p.m. My heart pounded, a sick rhythm that matched the rain's patter on my hood. She appeared across the quad, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes scanning the crowd. She looked nervous, her steps hesitant. Nothing like the confident girl who'd laugh with Callahan. I stood under an oak tree, the wet bark rough against my back, and waved her over. She saw me, her face tightening, but she came, her umbrella bobbing in the drizzle. "Hey," she said, her voice soft, cautious. "What's going on? You've been distant." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that made her flinch. "Distant? That's rich, Lily." My voice was low, but it trembled with everything I'd been holding in. "I saw you. With Callahan. Outside the lecture hall. In her office. Don't lie to me." Her eyes widened, her lips parting, but no words came. The silence was deafening. Her guilt written in the way her shoulders slumped. It's not what you think," she stammered, her voice breaking. "It's just... Don't." I cut her off, my hand shaking as I pulled out my phone. I opened the photos, shoving the screen toward her. "This is what I think. You and her, Lily. You lied to me. For weeks, maybe longer." I swiped to the next photo, then played the recording, her voice, her laugh, echoing between us. The color drained from her face, her umbrella slipping to the ground, rain soaking her hair. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered, tears mixing with the rain. "It was just she understood me, saw me. You were always working, always gone. Don't you dare blame me." I snapped, my voice rising. Heads turned. Students pausing under their umbrellas. I didn't care. You made a choice. You and Callahan. And now you're going to face it. Her eyes darted around, panic setting in. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "I sent proof to the dean." I said, the words cold and final. "Photos, rumors, everything. The whole campus is talking about Callahan now. She's done, Lily. And you're going to live with this." She shook her head, tears streaming now. "Please don't. I'll end it, I swear. I love you, I didn't mean." Her voice cracked, but I was done listening. Her words, her tears, they were too late. I turned away, the rain cold against my face, and walked toward the Humanities building. I wasn't done yet. Callahan's office was my last stop. The hallway was empty, the buzz of midterms fading as classes let out. Her door was closed, but I didn't knock. I slipped a printed photo under it, one of her and Lily, with a note scrawled on the back. "The dean knows. So does everyone else." I didn't need to see her face. The act was enough, a final jab to her untouchable facade. As I left the building, my phone buzzed. An email from the dean's office, a generic reply. "We take allegations seriously and are investigating." It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it was something. The Reddit thread was still alive, students demanding answers, some calling for Callahan's suspension. I'd lit the match, and the fire was spreading. Back at the apartment, I packed a bag. Lily's things were still there, but they didn't hurt anymore. They were just objects, relics of a life that wasn't mine. I'd move out tomorrow, crash with Jake until I found a new place. The photos, the recording, the document, I deleted them all. I didn't need them anymore. The truth was out, and it would do the rest. The rain had stopped, the campus quiet under a heavy sky. I stood outside, breathing in the damp air, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Lily's betrayal had shattered me, but I'd rebuilt something stronger, sharper. Callahan would face a reckoning. Maybe a suspension, maybe worse. Lily would carry the shame, the whispers, the loss of me, and I'd walk away not whole, but free. I didn't know what came next. A new apartment, new routines, maybe even a new me. But as I walked across the quad, the oak trees dripping with rain, I felt the weight lift. The roses I dropped that first night were gone, washed away. So was the guy who'd held them. I was someone else now, and I was ready to start again.